ourselves. It's a revolutionary concept. As Dwayne said, we should hear perhaps today a few things that will change your life. That was in the past as I started 20 years ago, and I read the book, Why Do Animals Get Heart Attacks? We talked about it. It was an eye-opener. And once you hear the combination and how it belongs together, the nutrient synergy, the vitamins, your health, that's something you will never forget. Prevention-oriented healthcare, because we can better prevent getting sick than that we wait for the disease to develop, and then we have to do a lot more to get healthier. At this moment, most people wait till they get sick, till there is a disease, and then visit a doctor and say, you should heal me. The doctor has the responsibility for healing us. We don't think so. We don't think so. First, a few things that the power of the body to renew itself. So our body exists of a lot of cells, a lot of tissue, and that the tissue, those cells, are able to renew itself every day. New cells will come, old cells will die. So that's a question. In theory, every 7 to 8 years we have a total new body because of cell division. But that's a strange idea, because if you have a disease, then it's not so that just wait and 7 years later you are healthy again. By what? By what? Only under optimal conditions. I'm working on a new me, new body under construction. People are working on their body for making it healthy. And what can they do? What? Not waiting, sitting, and it happens all. It's a power that is inside our body, each body, to get new cells. Red blood cells live 120 days, for instance. Every day a huge amount of blood cells are being destroyed and new cells are being made in our bone marrow. Optimal conditions. What is optimal conditions? Well, optimal conditions is the basic, the food. In fact, our body needs the fuel, needs the food, needs a good mindset, needs a good environment for building all those new cells. And healing processes also. Here underneath there's a picture of a wound. If a body is wounded, then we have the possibility to renew, to repair, to heal. Billions of body cells, blood vessels, 100,000 kilometers, blood vessels. All vessels together, the big ones, the small ones, the very small ones. Bones, that bones is not just like a table, so it is also a living material for bone cells to get broken down and other cells coming back, new cells. So our body is able to make new material, but as long as we are not plants or trees and getting the food out of the where we stand in the, then we should get the fuel and the food out of what we eat and what we drink. We're talking about health, but without talking about disease, we cannot talk about health. Despite the fact that our body is able to make new cells and to renew and heal itself, cardiovascular disease is 33%, the single largest epidemic today. Despite the statins, despite many medication that our doctors can prescribe for us, heart attack, strokes, 2030 will be more and more incidents of heart attacks and stroke worldwide. Also with cancer, we're not only talking about cardiovascular disease, we also talk about cancer. New cancer patients, millions of them. A prognosis of the WHO, death by cancer every third person. So something goes wrong. Goes wrong in the medication, goes wrong in how we are doing with our health situation, the decisions we made, the things we need. That looks like we need some more than the medication or the health approaches the doctors are giving us. That's a law of medication, a law of medicine. As long as you don't understand the root cause of a disease, you're not able to find a solution, an approach. So that's why we are talking about an epidemic of cardiovascular disease and cancer, because they have no specific preventive therapeutic measures for that kind of diseases. Then otherwise, there won't be so many people suffering and dying of the diseases. Of course, there was a development in history, a medication for how will disease develop and how come that that people get ill. This man, it's a long time ago, he discovered that diseases started at cellular level. His work is still used on medical school. So students studying medicine, still use his work, his book. On the other hand, we had a vitamin research. This man discovered a few vitamins, and we have another one. That's a Dutch man. I always bring his example for he's one of my people. Christian Eijkman. He discovered B1, the vitamin B1, and there are many Nobel Prizes for the people who discovered vitamins. But he got, that's a funny story, he got his Nobel Prize not because he was bright, but his assistant was a lot more stubborn as he was. Then he discovered the connection between vitamin B1 deficiency and beriberi, a disease in Indonesia. He did some research over there, and Eijkman was convinced it has something to do with a virus or so, or a bacteria or so. But his assistant was stubborn enough, said, no, we have to look further, we have to stay on the project, and he discovered that it has to do with a vitamin deficiency. But no one knows the name from the assistant. Eijkman got the Nobel Prize. But thanks his assistant. But for such historic discoveries in history, we need stubborn men, women, and we need coincidence, and we need some creative thinking. So it's good that we have such persons. So we have one here, a very stubborn one, a very powerful one, a very creative one. He made the connection between the cellular manifestation of diseases and the vitamins. Because at that time before, diseases develop on cellular level. Why? Don't know. And the vitamin deficiency causes some diseases like beriberi, or whatever you know. You probably know also the scurvy. We can't talk about it. But this Dr. Matthias Rath made the connection between those two. He said it's logical that if a cell, of which we have I don't know how many millions, if they have not the fuel and the basic food they need for their function, then it's logical that the cellular function is it has a problem, and therefore a disease develops. He called it cellular medicine because it's cellular level and it's medicine. It's also the connection, so how diseases are developed, but also how diseases can be prevented. 1994. He worked together with Linus Pauling. Those two men met each other in Europe in times they were very active in freedom movement, the freedom activities, and they shared some ideas also about the importance of vitamins and the connection with cardiovascular diseases. So Linus Pauling invited Dr. Rath to come over to America. Rath was a cardiologist working in Berlin at that time at the cardiology department, and he also helped in the research for the cholesterol lowering drugs, the statins. But as he met Dr. Pauling, he joined him, and in the research center, the institute, the Pauling Institute. And his colleagues in Berlin told him, that's the end of your career, because now you're entering a field that is so, how do you call it? It's not a serious field. It's an alternative field. If you as doctor go into that field, you'll lose your credibility as a doctor. But I already said he was stubborn. He still is. He still is. And he did it, and it was good. Here we see the publications of Dr. Rath and Linus Pauling together from 1991. So before cellular medicine was there, but were the first publication to describe the connection between vitamin C and cardiovascular diseases, the atherosclerosis deposits. At that time, it was a start. It was an idea. It wasn't proven yet in the way we have it now. This was the idea on cellular level. This is a cell, and each cell is functioning on the same way. There's a management, there's a factory, there are power plants, and there's a city wall. It's like a community, it's like a city. Every cell, basically, is built up like this. From the management, the cell gets the job, so what the cell should do. Of course, here the power plants, the mitochondria, very important for the energy that cell needs. We have cells in our arms, in our skin that needs a lot less energy, and we have cells in our heart that needs a lot more energy. So our heart cells, for instance, contain a lot more mitochondria than the cell in our skin. So that cell is producing some enzymes or some hormones, or so they're all produced in the factory, and the city wall is protecting that cell. So we have some 60 billions or so cells. There are a lot of them, but they're all built in this way. Other forms or other locations, but this is what they need. What do they need? They need water. 74% of our body is just water, and that's important because that's important for transport of several substances outside, inside our cells, for bringing the nutrients, for getting rid of what is coming out of the cells. We need oxygen, also important. Without oxygen, we can, a minute or so, 2 minutes. Without water, we can 2 days, 3 days, then will get worse. Then we need some macronutrients, some bigger ones, some proteins, fat, carbs, not that much carbs, because we are not working that physical work, we don't do that anymore that much, so we need the proteins for building our body, the fat we need, because also this wall, that cell wall, is made of fat. So fat is very important for us. Also our brains are fat. So without the healthy fat in our food, we also have a deficiency. What do we need? Micronutrients. Because that carb and fats are basically there for energy, for calories, but they are packed calories. Without the micronutrients, we cannot unpack the carbs for getting energy out of it. So micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, trace elements, and more. Trace elements because we need a very, very small amount, but we definitely need it. So here we see a lot of other cells, so red blood cells and skin cells, here a bone cell, a nerve cell. They have special forms, different forms, but they're all built like that system I showed you before with the factory and the wall and the power plants. They're all in the same way. Most important functions of those micronutrients, we already talked about the cellular bioenergy. It's a kind of picture, perhaps you know about the citrus cyclus and the oxidative things in the cell, but it's not important. It is just important that you know that we need energy in each cell, and we need a protection of the cell, and we need to make collagen and connective tissue. Without collagen and connective tissue, we would be like a plum pudding or so. Our bones, our skin, our organs, our total system is built of connective tissue. And also that is a living tissue. It's destroyed and built up every time, every day. So those three functions are the most important functions for our micronutrients in our body. And as cellular medicine is thinking about cellular level, not organ level, are the major topics in cellular medicine. in 75 minutes I cannot explain all diseases and how cellular medicine is functioning, but we have a research institute since 1999. After Linus Pauling died, Dr. Rath had to make a decision. So what should I do? Should I go back to Europe, back to my colleagues in the Berlin cardiology? Was it a good idea? So he worked together with Dr. Alexandra Nitsvicki. Together they worked with in the Linus Pauling Institute, and together they decided to start an own research institute to do more research for micronutrients in relation to the development of diseases. Dr. Nitsvicki is the head of the institute, and in the institute, you see here the website. Those team over there has more than 160, I think in the meantime it's more than over 180 or so scientific publications. And that is the power of the organization, the Dr. Rath organization, because it's science-based. It's not we think that or it could be. No, it's science. It's in this institute, it's not a clinic, it's an institute. There, the team is developing the most powerful combination of substances, of micronutrient substances that help in the function I showed you here. So the most powerful combination for getting the best of bioenergy for our body, the best connective tissue for our body. They do research not only cardiovascular disease and cancer, they do also research on Lyme disease. There's a very bright young scientist that is fully into Lyme research. They also do research on diabetes, on Alzheimer's disease. So that's a broad spectrum of very many diseases. But of course, cardiovascular disease, that was the first topic they addressed. And after that also cancer, and they have a lot of publication. You can visit the site if you want. It's, of course, that's a very scientific thing, the site of the institute. What is the approach? We focus on the root cause of disease. So not treating symptoms. If you treat symptoms, you don't understand the disease. If you understand the disease, why it's developing and what is the root cause, you can also, that's the first step to develop a treatment or the approach. So they are selecting the right biological pathway to prevent. Of course, that's the best way to prevent. But they also discovered that those combinations they selected, that those combinations are also able to reverse a process of disease in our body. This is a word, the micronutrient synergy, that's special for this cellular medicine approach. So it's not about high amounts of single nutrients, it's about the combination of nutrients. The combination that is more powerful than one or two single nutrients. Simple, healthy cell, metabolic malfunction, you don't see anything, that's the first step. But if it takes longer and long-time nutrient deficiency, the cell is not functioning that good anymore. So the organ built out of I don't know how many cells will get sick, and then the disease will spread. some discoveries are not that complicated to understand, but someone has to start it and make some publications. Deficiency of vitamins, minerals, other micronutrients in the body cell, the most frequent cause of chronic diseases. Also, heart failure, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes. This is a bit complicated perhaps, but most important is that it's visible that the nutrient synergy, that's a combination of micronutrients, is addressing a lot of specific things that has to do with cardiovascular health. The atherosclerosis, also the arteria plaques forming on the lipid metabolism, the cholesterol, the blood, the pressure, the inflammation, all 5 things together. It's not just like a medication from a doctor that is just addressing the blood pressure and leaving all other things. Here you see a list of the MMPs, HDL, LDL, that are the lipids. The good one goes up, the bad one goes down. Cytokines has to do with inflammation. So it's a complete approach for health. So the best, the synergy is a new math. It's 1 + 1 is 7 or so. That's our new kind of mathematics. But that's very important because one single nutrients in high amounts have also the risk for imbalance in the metabolism. So we use a lot of substances in a relative small amount, but with a high potency, a high effect, and simultaneous effect on multiple pathways. So that the synergy is very, very important. They tested, you can see here, just with vitamin C on a virus, a flu virus, just with vitamin C, the activity of the virus is a bit reduced, but not that impressive. But with the combination, vitamin C with other nutrients, the activity of the flu virus reduction very fast. In a concentration, more is better. So against the process of a flu, micronutrient synergy is more effective than just vitamin C in a high concentration, because here 3000 is a high concentration, but that doesn't affect the flu virus, just in the start a bit, but afterwards not anymore. That kind of studies they do in the research institute. So here also with CG is it a green tea extract. If you make the combination just green tea extract or vitamin C, or you put a combination with other components all together, you can stop the growth of breast cancer cells. In vitro, that's a lab study. That has nothing to do with animals, nothing to do with humans. That is just proof that the mechanism is functioning. That with this combination of substances, they are able to stop the spread of breast cancer cells, the growth of the breast cancer cells. And not just breast cancer. They proved that all cancer cells develop the same way. It depends on the aggressivity, so the amount of enzymes that produced and the amount of micronutrients they need. But they do the test with 40 or 45 different kind of cancer cells, and they were all able to stop all development. at a special concentration. Here you also see the green column of live cancer cells. Apoptosis is the death of cancer cells, and normally death of cancer cells, all cells live for a period of time and then they die. So they can, that's a normal process. Cancer cells don't know anymore. Then we should help them to die, I always say. Yeah, it's in fact, we should help them. It's not destroying them, it's helping them to die, to remember what was meant to be. So early apoptosis, that's the first step of dying, and late apoptosis, then they are dead. So you see here the amount of the nutrients will go up, and with a higher concentration there are more cells destroyed, dead, and there are no live cells anymore. So it's a lab over there. But it's the basic of a modern health approach. It's a totally different approach than destroying cancer cells or treating symptoms and not understanding the disease at all. Thinking about cells, not in organs. We have a conventional medicine, we have a doctor for the heart, a doctor for the eye, a doctor for the lungs, a doctor for your bones. And in fact, there's all cells. And all those cells need some fuel, need food, need energy. So we are looking, in cellular medicine, we are looking in cells. Our body, organs, and a level deeper, we think about cells. And what those cells need. If you compare it, you can see that the medication, the conventional medication for high blood pressure, you get a beta blocker. What does it do? It just suppresses the activity of the heart. That's, yeah, of course the blood pressure goes down, but that doesn't solve the problem why you had high blood pressure. So by heart failure you get diuretics. You lose some water, but you lose also minerals. You lose, it is an artificial removal of water. So we know out of our heating system, if we put out some water, then the pressure goes down. It's logical system, but it doesn't solve the problem of the health situation in your body. Statins also lowering the synthesis of cholesterol, but the real cause why your body is producing that cholesterol, that isn't solved. Symptom oriented, so we need another thing. You're familiar with the book?
Yes.
No. Yes, you do. You have the book over there, yes. I saw. So it's the book Why Animals Don't Get Heart Attacks But People Do. That's a strange question, of course. There are few animals that we don't understand. That bear that goes in winter sleep, and as he wakes up, he has a cholesterol level. Our doctors would say he would die. That's unhealthy. But that bear isn't dying. That bear is living, and he don't get a heart attack, in spite of his high cholesterol level. So in that book, Dr. Rath wrote in 91, I guess, 91, 92. That's the basic explanation for lay people, not for therapists. Dr. Rath always said the doctors and the cardiologists and the specialists, that's the group that we won't convince them until everyone else is convinced, because it's a difficult group. So he wrote this for everyone to understand. And very easy way of explaining about cardiovascular disease and development. this I have to explain about cholesterol, because we know, or we were told that cholesterol is the problem in our blood to cause the heart attacks. That's why our doctor said you have to have a low cholesterol level, and if you haven't, you should take statins to make sure that your cholesterol is low. The problem is that a lot of people having heart attack with wonderful cholesterol levels. And there are also people with high cholesterol levels have no problem at all in the arteries. No heart attack, nothing. So something isn't right at the discovery that cholesterol should be the root, would be the root cause of arteriosclerosis and heart attack. This molecule looks like the other one. If you see it here, that's the lipoprotein. Like low density lipoprotein, the LDL, the bad cholesterol, how it's called. It's cholesterol in a package, but we call it bad cholesterol. That is the level your doctor wants to reduce. This one is that bad cholesterol with an extra strain on it attached. A very adhesive molecule, ApoA. And this molecule is in fact the risk factor for cardiovascular diseases. A fascinating molecule. We tell you why. Here you see it. The LDL with the ApoA, that's the lipoprotein A, LPA. They missed it. They measured here the LDL, the bad cholesterol, and they compared it, and at the same place there where the LDL was also the LPA. So they missed it. It was sometimes researchers look for a solution and find the wrong substance, or they forget something, or they make conclusion afterwards. They said it wasn't quite right, and that is the case here in this situation. That LPA is a molecule, as we compare the people with animals, that we don't produce vitamin C, but we can make this molecule. And there we are unique, together with guinea pigs and kind of small bats. But people, we don't produce vitamin C. All other animals do. We don't know how, we don't know why, but the ability to produce vitamin C was lost very long time ago, 40,000 years ago. And so that's the difference. Dr. Rath discovered that he made that connection. Why is it that animals produce vitamin C and cannot produce that lipoprotein A? And we humans, we do. Could that be something to research and to study that has perhaps had something to do with the development of cardiovascular disease? So he discovered that the vitamin C is very important for the production of that collagen, that structure, that steel construction in our body to keep everything stable. Also in the arterial wall. So in the arterial wall we have also the collagen to keep the arteries stable. With a lot of vitamin C that's possible. A lot of collagen and a stable artery wall. With very little vitamin C out of our food, a kiwi, an orange, something, vegetables, we can produce collagen a bit, but we need that molecule to repair, to help giving stability in our artery walls. But as I told before, this is a cholesterol molecule that is a transporter for that adhesive molecule that is built in the artery wall here around, surrounding to bring the stability, but it's also cholesterol. So that there in the artery wall, a thickening of tissue takes place, leading to cellular problems. You remember the sailor? That's long time ago. Columbus and other guys looking for other lands surrounding the world. The sailors died of scurvy, and the cat jumped off the boat lively, no problem. So those sailors, they ate just biscuits, water, no vitamin C at all. There was in a short period of time, 2 months, they lost their teeth, they bled to death. The ability to make LPA for repairing is an ability that you need a lot of time. The scurvy is a quick process of not having vitamin C at all, and they won't survive. It took another 50 years after James Lind discovered the connection between vitamin C and scurvy. The English admiral of Navy admiral took another 50 years before they decided to bring some oranges and citrus fruits on the ships. 50 years, 50. Because they were also stubborn, but in the wrong way. Some years ago, there was, we will never know for sure why and how, but the ability to make vitamin C out of glucose, when all animals make that in their liver, it was lost. We cannot do it. And the people who could produce lipoprotein A survived. That's why we are here now, because we have the ability to make those lipoprotein A as a repair factor for our artery walls. A substitute for collagen. Collagen are long strands for repairing, and also this lila molecule is also a long strain. So the old concept of cardiovascular diseases, of atherosclerosis, is you cannot prevent it. It's just your fate is just, we don't know why. It's a genetic problem or whatever, or and if you're lucky, you won't develop those deposits in your arteries, and if you're bad luck, then yes, it's bad luck. But now we can say those lipid molecules are not there on purpose. They are there is a repair process. Deposit protects these walls against scorbutic blood loss. Without the ability of LPA, we also have problems of scurvy. So I read a few months ago, that there are already again young people having scurvy because they're just eating fast food and Coke and energy drink, nothing that gives us vitamin C. With vitamin C from the start, from birth you can prevent cardiovascular disease, because we need it. Every living animal, people, everyone needs vitamin C. Those animals make it themselves, but we have to get it in our food to prevent the development of deposits in our arteries. There are a lot of studies with vitamin C. Studies, I mentioned here 2 studies in 2004 and 2013, those studies being made to prove the function and for vitamin C. They proved that a high vitamin C blood level, a reduction in risk for stroke, reduction in a risk of cardiovascular disease. They also did a clinical study. At that time, people with proven atherosclerotic deposits were 55 patients were in the study, and they were given the cellular nutrient combination to test before and after with a kind of device, a scan, to scan the heart. So there were deposits over there before, after the deposits were gone. But that could be coincidence. Then you never know about the device, the scan, perhaps, don't know. They measured the amount of deposits. And you see it's a long process, because after 6 till 12 months, also a year, the growth of extra deposits stopped. That doesn't mean they were gone. Normally it's a process of developing deposits more and more and more, and you see that after a period of time of 6 months, the development, the growth was reduced. In the middle, this column, the red column, is still growth, but less than without the micronutrients. So that's also a proof of a mechanism. But one of the test persons, the patients, there were no deposits there anymore after a year. I have a few minutes. This is the real proof that we have since 2015. Because the scientists in the research institute developed a mouse model. It's a pity that to be taken seriously in science, there are always animal lives at stake. It's a pity, but that's the way you are taken seriously. The steps in research are first in lab, in just tissue studies. Then the second step is animals, and then if there's enough proof and security that it won't have negative effects, then the third step is clinical studies with patients. So it's done in medic. Those animals, that model, the mouse model, is like us. It mimics our human metabolism. Because that mouse is not producing vitamin C, but can make his own LPA. That's unique. That wasn't possible until 2015, as one of the scientists in the institutes developed this to get rid of the vitamin C genes that produced the vitamin C in a mouse, that wasn't that complicated. But to get it done that those mice produce LPA was very complicated. This is a model. Dr. Rath said they patented it, but it's free for every scientist and for every clinic that want to work with it, because it's a wonderful model for looking what happens in a human body without using humans as test persons, as guinea pigs. They test what happened with and without vitamin C, and this is arterial tissue where those deposits are without vitamin C. You can see the deposits here, and it is with high doses vitamin C. There are no deposits. So they tested this. They see that it's really happening, and they also tested for the mice that stayed healthy and were given high dietary vitamin C. This, in addition to their normal food, the mice food. What happens if those healthy mice would receive 2-3 weeks no vitamin C anymore? And then they saw that it was really a quick process. The formation of deposit started very quickly again. So it's necessary to get the vitamin C every day. Here we see it. So you see, this kind of pictures are for scientists seriously. That is not some doctor who said, I think it could be. This is really serious, and therefore he's under so many attacks in the past, and still he's fighting so many attacks, but because he's right. And it has consequences, because the LPA, the substance we can make, the statins, the cholesterol lowering medical drugs, has no effect on that LPA. So the whole market of statins can be closed down if this is accepted by medical world. So there's a lot of money to lose. What I told you about the cardiovascular disease and vitamin C, that's just an example. It's a big group of diseases that can develop because of a deficiency of mostly vitamin C. That's just one micronutrient, but it's also the most important micronutrient. And it's good to know for everyone that we can prevent cardiovascular diseases by taking a simple nutrient like vitamin C. Sometimes it's that simple that it perhaps is too simple, that we cannot imagine that a simple solution like that could be the solution for diseases where doctors studied 10 years or longer to prescribe you medication that's not fighting the root cause of the disease, that's just fighting the symptoms. And that a simple substance, nutrient like vitamin C, can do the real thing, can fight the root cause of cardiovascular diseases. That's almost unbelievable. Here we see the mouse model. Dr. Rath told us he offers this mouse model, University of Maastricht, because that's the Dutch city. The organization is in the neighborhood of Maastricht, and we it could be very good when we were working together. And other research institutions. And available online and free of charge. As I told you at the beginning, Dr. Rath wants all people to understand it. All people to profit from the research, publications, the research, the development of new, modern, natural, science-based health approach. And perhaps it's a bit a scientific breakthrough for all mankind. That's big, but it's a real it's a new approach that we should use. Understanding the past, the connection of vitamin C deficiency causing scurvy, but a long-term chronic deficiency of vitamin C causes atherosclerosis, deposits in our arteries leading towards heart attack and stroke. If you see it like that, it's not that complicated. Dr. Pauling was very convinced that that was the first step for beating heart disease. The end of heart disease. That is his handwriting. It's very, it's a doctor handwriting. It's you cannot leave. A call for an international effort to abolish heart disease. He was that convinced that Linus Pauling. I don't know if you know that Linus Pauling was also did a lot of research about vitamin C. He was also convinced that vitamin C is important for our health. But he worked with mega doses, with 10, 20, 30 grams of vitamin C, just vitamin C. And Dr. Rath took over and developed cellular medicine, like the combination of the micronutrients. So that's a step further to use the power of working together by several micronutrients who work together and have a better effect than just the vitamin C alone. During recent years, that's what he wrote here. Recent years, we and our associates have made two remarkable discoveries. He writes, we, that's Dr. Rath and Linus Pauling together and their research team. Two remarkable discoveries. It's not a whole text, but I took out the most important things. The primary cause of heart disease, insufficient intake of ascorbate, that's vitamin C, ascorbate acid. An insufficiency from which nearly every person on earth suffers. Because we don't get the amount of vitamin C we need for staying healthy out of our food. So in fact we all have a vitamin C deficiency. That was the first discovery. The other discovery is those LPA I talked about. That is the risk factor. That's the only form, repair, production of repair substance we humans have to prevent us from having scurvy. So that was the second big great discovery as a major risk factor for heart disease. Also in the Netherlands, a few doctors give permission to measure those blood level. Those blood value you can measure, like cholesterol, like hemoglobin, like other things. But mostly doctors don't know it. Mostly they don't want it because they have nothing they can do about it. They don't know what to do about it. The only thing they can is a prescription of cholesterol-lowering drugs, and they have no influence, no effect at all on this risk factor. So if they are aware that it is a risk factor, then even what is the solution? What can they do about it? And recommend mega doses of vitamin C. They won't do that. That's not in the protocol. But we know we should do that ourselves. Certain essential nutrients, that is the combination of the micronutrients. It's not just vitamin C, it's also lysine, for instance, the amino acid lysine. It's an essential amino acid we just get out of food. We cannot make it ourselves. We have to have it in our foods, and those collagen, that connective tissue that give the stability to our body and the arteries. And even reduce existing plaques. That's these plaques, these deposits we saw in the study, the clinical study with the MRI, with the scan, that also existing plaques could be reduced. But I always say it's better to prevent it. A lot of studies support this conclusion. And no time should be lost. But that was in 1992. So I think a lot of time is already lost. But Linus Pauling at that moment, he was so convinced we have something that is important for all mankind. They gave a press conference, Dr. Rath and Linus Pauling. Do you know how many people were there?
100.
Two persons were there. 2 journalists. And no one else. And they give their press conference like there were a million people. But that was already a sign that there was some conflict in what do we do with this guy and his knowledge and his discoveries, and what consequences does it have. And so that was his first confrontation with the hard reality. No time should be lost. The goal is inside. Eliminating heart failure, heart disease, cardiovascular diseases. They are not necessary. We can prevent them. So I would say, don't let us not wait another 50 years like the Marine for taking vitamin C as much as we need to stay healthy. And also our young people should know about that to prevent diseases to develop. And that's the message I want to give you today. Because if we wait until our doctor is giving us a prescription for vitamin C, I don't know if we are still alive.
Advocacy work, health education, like this. We support the research that's carried out in California at the institute that Terry mentioned. And we get more than a little bit involved in what you would call health politics. Some people don't understand that, and when I use that phrase, health politics, some people say, what on earth has politics got to do with health, right? I've given my talk a little slightly provocative title today, Discovering the Facts About Health in a Fake News World. We're all now very familiar, aren't we, with this idea that there's this thing called fake news. You have to learn to identify. And we're sort of gradually being taught, supposedly, that anything that isn't presented by the orthodox mass media is what is fake. Okay, the media we're supposed to believe is telling us everything that is true, and anything alternative, such as perhaps what Terry has been telling us today, we are meant to believe is fake. Let's start with, I think, the NHS was mentioned earlier, I think, perhaps by Dwayne. We are continually told, aren't we, that the NHS is in crisis. Practically every couple of days we see a headline somewhere talking about the crisis in the NHS. The NHS is supposedly short of health workers, short of staff, and short of money. And we have to all pay more in our taxes to ensure that the health service survives. I'd like to begin by addressing those points, just to show you, to help you understand how we're being misled here. To begin with, the British National Health Service is actually the world's 5th biggest employer. There's only McDonald's, the Walmart group and the US supermarket group, the People's Liberation Army of China, and the US Department of Defense that employ more people. Okay. So it's a bit difficult to believe that the health service is short of staff when it employs more people than any other health service in any country on the planet. The health service isn't short of people. Then the thing about being short of money, okay? Let me explain this graph. It can work out how the pointer works. Oh yeah, okay. So this graph shows spending per capita, that means per head of population, in a selection of countries in the world. I don't know if you can all see that. Right out there on the far end, the horizontal sector here shows spending per head of population on health. The vertical sector of the graph here shows the life expectancy. Okay? So, starting with expenditure, the United States here is way, way out in front. It spends more on healthcare than any other nation on the planet. More on healthcare per head, per person, per population. And then right down at the bottom you have some of the poorer countries in the world, African countries, Asian countries. And what this graph tells you is that, yes, spending on healthcare, orthodox approaches, is effective in increasing life expectancy up to a point. But there comes a point at about here in the graph where, whether you're talking about poorer European countries such as Greece, or the UK, Japan, richer countries, or the US, life expectancy is somewhere still just between 80 and 85. At this point, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on the health service. Life expectancy with our orthodox system of healthcare is about the same, and people generally spend the last portion of their lives in very poor health. So the message is, good health is not dependent upon how many people your health service employs, and it's not even dependent on how much money it spends either. Okay? So stories about the NHS crisis, really, are often being used as propaganda tools to support the continuation of the current approach to healthcare. Support the pharmaceutical approach to healthcare, in fact. The things that Terry's been telling us about today are not the things that the media is telling us about. And these are not things that would require many more people to be employed in the health service. And certainly, if you look at the price of pharmaceuticals, it wouldn't involve spending ever more money on them either. So my next point related to that is that we are living in an age of global information wars. On the one hand, we have the orthodox mass media that we've been used to for many years now, and for generations even. This has been the principal source of health information we've been provided with, that and our doctors. On the other side, we have the growing importance of the internet and alternative media. And we are now being set up with an increasing conflict between these two sources of information. And that is why this term fake news is being used so much, because this threatens, if you like, the status quo. Ask yourself why we are even here today. There's a really deeper question. Why did we come today? On the basic level, it's because we want information about health. But if I rephrase the question and say, why did we need to come today? It's because these guys over here are not providing us with the information that Terry shared with us this morning. Without going too much into this, there is no doubt that the media that we have been getting our information from principally for generations now, there is no doubt that it is willfully and knowingly not providing us with the full truth. This document is a US CIA memo, the US Central Intelligence Agency memo from 1991. And it shows that by even 1991, the CIA already had, and the document says, relationships with reporters from every major wire service, newspaper, news weekly, and television network in the United States. It says that in many instances, the CIA had persuaded, that's an interesting word, isn't it? Persuaded reporters to postpone, change, hold, or even scrap stories. Now that's the United States. It's unthinkable that other major industrialized countries haven't got the same setup there. This gentleman was Richard Sellant, and he was president of CBS News throughout most of the 1960s and 70s. And he famously once said that our job is to give people not what they want, but what we decide they ought to have. And that is still true today. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you doubt that, ask yourself why the stuff that Terry is telling us about, why his successors aren't sharing that with us today. Not only are they not sharing it with us today, they are deliberately telling us that actually vitamins are dangerous for our health, and all we have to do is wait for the next miracle drug coming around the corner to come and save us. So don't be fooled by this fake news witch hunt. Yes, we have to be very careful in deciding what we believe and who we trust. And yes, we certainly need to be doing our own research to decide who is telling us what and why they're telling it to us. But don't be fooled that it's anything so simplistic that it's about trusting the media and ignoring people like Terry, because that's not what it's about at all. Basically, if you look at the pharmaceutical model, as Dr. Rath famously puts it, it's actually the biggest barrier. The pharmaceutical industry is the biggest barrier to our health. It's what it's done is defined the human body as a global marketplace. Your bodies, our bodies, are the marketplace for pharmaceutical drugs. They're a potential source of profits. This is why, as Terry explains, cholesterol levels are being lowered by governmental authorities on the advice of scientists on the payroll of the pharmaceutical industry, because they have a vested interest in selling us more drugs, getting more of us dependent on drugs, in fact. The drug industry exploits diseases as markets for its drugs. If you are healthy, if your body is in a state of optimal health, you are of no interest to the drug industry. In fact, if we're all in optimal health, the drug industry would largely not exist, or it would certainly exist in a very, very different form to what it does today. The drug industry has a vested interest in us either thinking we are sick or we're at risk of becoming sick. So it's established a global monopoly promoting the use of patented chemical drugs. when doctors go to medical schools, the only game in town is about learning about pharmacology and surgery. Doctors emerge from medical schools thinking that this is the only things that can possibly improve health. Doctors, it's not their fault. They get minimal, very minimal training in diet and nutrition, which, we would reverse. If we could click our fingers and create a perfect world, we would reverse it completely. Nutrition, cellular medicine would form the vast majority, of the medical school training, along with the usual things like anatomy and things. But this is obviously not what's happening. And of course, the drug industry aims to eliminate any and all competition from non-patentable health approaches. Because one of the key differences between vitamins and drugs is that you can't patent vitamins. Vitamins come from nature. They came from God, if you like. They exist on this planet and have existed from this planet for millennia. We were talking this morning, Dwayne and Kevin and I, saying, how insane is it, the idea that supposedly we were put on this earth and all of the things we need to extend our lives and to stay healthy don't exist. They had to be invented in the form of patented synthetic chemicals. I mean, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
It's truly insane. But this is the idea we are being presented with. Drug-based medicine isn't healthcare. It's disease care. Terry pointed this out, explained this morning. Drug-based medicine treats diseases. What we're interested in is becoming and staying healthy. It's not as if the British government doesn't know any of this. I don't know whether any of you have seen this report before. This was published in 2005. And its title, the influence of the pharmaceutical industry. It talks about the influence of the industry being pervasive and persistent. It talks about drug safety concerns. It talks about drug-induced illness, the fact that drugs are actually causing disease. And it said there's not enough independent research comparing drug and non-drug approaches to health. And some of the witnesses who took part in the inquiry, this inquiry lasted for several months, by the way, they stated openly that there is little commercial interest in non-drug approaches. So when this report was published in 2005, for about a day and a half, it was big news. It was on all the major news channels. 2 days later, it was gone. There'll be a copy gathering dust in the House of Commons library somewhere, I presume, but the recommendations of the report have essentially been forgotten. But the government cannot say that a lot of the things that I've been saying to you in the past few minutes, it doesn't know about, because it does. Polypharmacy. Kevin was saying earlier to me about your mother, who's been when she goes on holiday, she has to take a box with all her drugs. It's not good for her back, right? This has a word now. Old people on strings of drugs is called polypharmacy. One drug to treat the symptoms of the previous drug, then another drug to treat the symptoms of that drug, and so on. And before you know it, you're on a batch of drugs, and your original problem is still there. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society a couple of years ago found that older people taking multiple drugs face a significantly greater risk of frailty, disability, and death. I think this was conducted in Australia, but they found that each additional drug that patients take was associated with a 22% chance, increased risk of going from a state of health to dying during the period of the study. Every drug added increased the risk of dying during the study by 22%. It's not even, right? It's not even if you avoid taking drugs, you eat a diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, and you take supplements. It's not even if you can easily avoid pharmaceuticals then. Studies in several countries now have shown that even our water supplies are polluted with measurable amounts of drugs. I mean, it's not difficult to guess one of the principal reasons for that, because people take drugs, some of them aren't metabolized, they pass out through the urine into the sewer system. The companies who provide us with the water, they don't have the filtering systems to remove these chemicals from the water supply. So they come back at us out of the taps, and so on, in a circular way. A study published earlier this year found 29 different types of drugs in 2 British rivers. And the drugs included antidepressants, antibiotics, and epilepsy medications. So, why don't our so-called leaders tell us the truth? Why don't they tell us this? Well, on the one hand, yes, they're protecting what is globally pharmaceuticals, $1 trillion a year industry. But you see, the drug industry and the chemical industry, they're all wrapped up in the stock market. Everybody's pensions, of course, are invested in the stock market. It's a whole house of cards, really. But that's why they don't tell you, because as Bill Clinton famously once said, it's the economy, stupid. That's what it's about. So any arguments that might potentially result in damage to the economy comes first. Speaking of money, the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2040, the world will be spending around $25 trillion a year on healthcare. We're getting to some pretty big numbers here, folks. $25 trillion. If you add up the GDPs of all the countries in the world, they currently come to about $80 trillion a year. That's the global world product. $80 trillion. So the World Economic Forum reckons that by 2040 we'll be spending $25 trillion on healthcare. Now, this 80 trillion will be higher by 2040, but it's still going to be a shocking percentage. We're back now to the health service thing I was saying about earlier. It's not about how much money you spend on healthcare. It's about what you do with it. It's about what you do with it. Interestingly, the World Economic Forum now admits that spending more on healthcare, and these are their words, do not necessarily achieve better health results. Right. Right, indeed. Of course. I mean, evidently correct. One of the biggest secrets in the drug industry is that pharmaceutical drugs actually deplete nutrients from the body. Partly this happens because the body uses vitamins and antioxidants to protect itself against the toxicity of the drugs. This book here was published about 20 years ago, and it cites over 450 studies on this subject, and they identified around 150 different types of drugs, classes of drugs, what they call nutrient depletion. Depleting, destroying, removing nutrients from the body. So, think about it. You're taking sick people with illnesses, you're giving them drugs, which, as Terry described, only affect the symptoms, they don't treat the root cause of the problem. And then on top of that, those drugs also are depleting the very things from your body that you need to stay healthy and get well again. And then the polypharmacy, so they give another drug, I talked about earlier, then another. It's easy to see how drugs actually are causing more damage than they are good. But it's not just that, because independent studies in several countries now have shown that the nutrient supply, the level of vitamins and minerals and amino acids that we get from our food, has been falling for decades now. There's been studies in the United States, here in the UK, Canada, the Netherlands, and other countries, proving this beyond any reasonable doubt. Some evidence suggests that this has been going on for perhaps even 100 years or more. Just to prove this, just to show you the sort of thing I'm talking about, I've taken from a study conducted in Canada, which showing, back to broccoli, I think Terry mentioned broccoli. The fall in the nutrient content of broccoli and potatoes sold in Canada between 1951 and 1999.
Wow.
Start with broccoli. So, calcium, the level of calcium between 1951 and 1999 fell by over 62%.
Wow.
Right across the board, iron by over 30%, vitamin A by over 55%, and so on. Riboflavin, that's vitamin B2, by over 40%. Potatoes, iron, over 50%. Vitamin A, 100%. So in other words, they couldn't find any. Vitamin C, over 57% fall over that period, and so on. Vitamin B2, 50%. So, adding insult to injury, the drugs are depleting nutrients from the body, they're not treating the root cause of disease, and the food itself that we're getting no longer contains the same levels of nutrients that it did when our grandfathers and grandmothers were eating those same foods. I'm going to finish with a couple of philosophical thoughts, just returning again to Linus Pauling. He understood this. You know, he was really probably Dr. Rath's chief mentor, in fact. But he once said, he said, do not let either the medical authorities or the politicians mislead you. Find out what the facts are and make your own decisions about how to live a happy life and to work for a better world. That's good advice, isn't it? It applies to a lot of things, not just to health, but it certainly applies to medicine. Dr. Rath, today, most areas of our planet have been liberated from the inability to read and write. But essentially the entire world is still enslaved by illiteracy in relation to our health and our body. This is why we're here today, to learn about health. But we have to come here to hear these things because we are not commonly being told these things anywhere else. And it's therefore incumbent upon us, Terry and I believe, and Denise and her team believe, that having learned these things, it's our duty to share them with other people. So my message really for today is let's take responsibility together for creating a new healthcare system. Because my conclusion is the same as Terry's. If we wait for the doctors and the governments and things to do it for us, we'll be waiting a very, very, very long time. Thank you very much.
We'll just take some questions. Any questions you have? I know we had a question that we couldn't answer in the first session, but here's your opportunity to ask that question now. As I said, this is all about us gathering information, arming ourselves to make better decisions. This is the truth, that we really need to embrace. So, the floor is open to you to begin asking questions, but maybe just before you do that, or as you formulate your questions, I'm just going to ask Kevin to take a minute to introduce himself to you. For those of you who may not know him, just a little bit about yourself. We've met Terry, we've met Paul, and I'll give the same to Alethia a minute. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you all for coming out today. As Dwayne says, my name is Kevin Dawkins. I'm senior pastor of Faith Tabernacle, a church that I founded 15 years ago. And I've got quite a few hats, and I've got my good preaching socks on today. But my background is many years ago, I got involved in weight training and actually took it very seriously to the point where I was actually competing to enter bodybuilding competitions. I was really, really enormous. I was 20 pounds lighter than Arnold Schwarzenegger was when he won Mr. Olympia 7 times. And I've got the stretch marks to prove it, although you can't see them. And so out of that, I had a very successful career as a salesman. Wasn't a Christian at the time, and basically, just before I got married 21 years ago, I asked the question of myself, do I want to be my boss in 10 years' time? My boss was fine, but I didn't want to be him, so I decided, what did I want to really do? I then packed myself up to the YMCA, did the Fitness Trainer Award, became qualified as a fitness instructor, worked in gyms for 5 years. My final position was as gym manager, managing 2 gyms and 15 staff. In that time, God had a divine plan for me, took me out of health and fitness, got me saved, put me to senior pastor of the church, but then God reminded me of my roots in health and fitness. I started with something, then it stopped, it went dormant for a number of years, and then God spoke to me about a year and a half ago, and he gave me John 10:10, where Jesus says, I've come that you may have life to the full. And he spoke to me about living the full life and about helping people do what Denise and Dwayne and the great team at HIPP are doing, to help people live healthy and well in body, soul and spirit. And that is what I am all about, as well as pastoring a church and a prison chaplain and all sorts of other stuff as well. I do a lot.
That was a minute.
He's a preacher, yeah.
Can I indulge the audience for 1 moment?
Yes,
Can I get everyone to stand up? Come on, everyone stand up. Stand up. Well, you guys can. Everyone stand up. And what I want you to do is, where your seat is, I want you to walk around your table back to your seat. And try and walk in the same direction so you don't crash into each other. All right, you can stop now. You can stop. Just go back to your seat and stop now. Okay, stay standing up. Okay. I want you all now to get on the floor position and get ready to do some push-ups. All right, then. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, you can be seated. That's a very, very quick illustration. When I asked you to stand up and walk around your table, it was easy for you to do because it's natural for you to do. The moment I asked you to do a push-up, some of you were like, whoa. We were never created to exercise. We were created to move.
Yeah.
So when you walked around your table, it was easy because that's what you were created to do. The moment I asked you to do something that's unusual, like exercise, you don't want to do it. And that's the challenge that we have when we're talking about living healthy. Along comes Terry, along comes Paul, and they're telling you to do things that might sound a little unnatural to do. But you were created to eat healthy. You were created to feed your body with nutrients. You were created to move. You were created to have a mind that thinks and generates happy thoughts and does stuff that is productive. And that is what HIPP About Health is all about. That's what the Dr. Rath Foundation is all about. And we're doing it in different ways, but we're achieving the same result. Without the nutrition, we won't go anywhere. Without the movement, we won't go anywhere. Without the spirit, we won't go anywhere. We need them all.
All right, now it's over to you. Questions? Oh, sorry. Alethia.
Just to quickly introduce myself, I've been on a bit of a health journey, and that took me to a place of wanting to know more about how the body works. I discovered the importance of looking after your body at a cellular level and utilising body detoxification to optimise detoxification pathways, as well as the ability for the body to absorb food. It took me to a place of nutritional therapy, colon hydrotherapy. HIPP About Health came about, and I was asked to join the team and look at the more nutritional aspects of health. And I'm very passionate about it, and I can see that this is the right direction that we're moving in, and like Kevin said, we've got to keep moving, so let's keep moving towards that goal.
Thank you. All right, guys, you see we've got a qualified panel here in their respective disciplines, all speaking about health. So it's time for you to fire away. Questions, yeah. No, well, we'll start with you. Yeah.
Somebody else.
No, it's okay.
Somebody with diabetes, how do you help them to counter diabetes? what can they do? Apart from
Yes,
taking
there's
injection?
one for me, I guess. Yeah. But the diabetes is, it's a long story to explain how it's functioning, but also with diabetes, vitamin C plays an important role. Because diabetes is, one part has to do with depletion of pancreatic function, the depletion of cells and nutrients. The pancreas isn't that active anymore in production of insulin. But the most important aspect of diabetes is the lack of sensibility for the insulin. The insulin is there, but the tissue isn't reacting anymore on the insulin. So it's a combination of more nutrients, especially vitamin C. The Institute did some studies of tissue protection against the sugar damage on tissue, the high blood sugar damage, and with vitamin C we can protect our tissue from the damage, but it's not enough to repair the insulin desensibility. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Also, fasting could be possible, lowering carbs intake, movement. It's a whole combination, a whole picture. But cellular medicine proves that vitamin C is also very important, especially for diabetes, because the long-term consequences of diabetes are also blood vessel problems.
Yeah.
Not only in the heart, over the whole pipeline, in the legs, so we have to protect the vessels.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
How do you reduce high blood pressure other than just taking it? With the main source, you have to take vitamin C to reduce high blood pressure.
No, there's another factor that plays a role, that is the nitrogen oxide, NO. That's a relaxing factor for the blood vessels. But it's complicated to explain that in two sentences. Yeah, arginine, the amino acid arginine, but it depends on what is the cause of the high blood pressure. You should always look at the root cause of the disease. So has it to do with spasm, with contractions of muscular tissue in the blood vessel? Or has it to do with kidney problems? Could also be a cause of high blood pressure. So you should always look for the root cause and then see what is happening on cellular level and what substance, what nutrients do we need to correct those imbalances. Contractions. Stress. Yes, stress is a factor that needs a lot of vitamin C to correct this situation. For stress, we produce adrenaline, the stress hormones, and in the production of adrenaline, we need vitamin C that's lost in the production of the adrenaline. So, chronic stress situation leads always to vitamin C deficiency. Therefore, the vitamin C isn't there for other functions. And so, someone gets high blood pressure, other one gets cardiovascular disease in deposits, but it's all a consequence of vitamin C deficiency.
Do you find one leads to the next, to the next, to the next? So
Of course.
you're picking up as you go in along,
Yeah.
collecting.
Yeah.
How do you reverse that?
Yeah, how do we? The Institute developed a combination of nutrients. That's the best combination. I show you on the picture with the blue circle in the middle, the nutrient synergy with the several aspects of cardiovascular disease, inflammation, collagen, anti-deposits. So that combination, that basic combination, is the basic recommendation that I give my patients if they want to start, if they want to start not just vitamin C, but an overall.
Are you able to signpost me to that?
I think Denise and Alethia are the right persons to get you information, to give you information about all nutrients and what is recommended. You also have the book Why Animals Don't Have Heart Attacks, so all information is here.
Denise and I are on hand to give consultations around nutrient synergies based on your personal circumstances, so you can actually make contact with us after this event. We do have our business cards as well to hand out to you. I mean, also in terms of stress, it would also be good to look at the root cause of what that stress is, because it could be things that happen in life which we can't avoid, but sometimes there can be some root causes of stress that we can actually address within our lives as well. So it's also about considering what is causing the stress and whether you can actually move away from that stress. You know, because sometimes we can change things about our lives that are causing us stress, or the approach that we take to that stress and how we manage it.
All right, we've got a question over here at the back.
Hiya, good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name's Veronica. I suffer with something called histamine intolerance. I discovered that I suffer with that when I went to the Allergy and Free From show about 8 years ago after having my daughter, and going to the doctor over and over. They tested me for high blood pressure, diabetes. They said looks are deceiving because generally I'm healthy, everything came back fine. They told me all you can do is lose weight. I was like, okay, so I was suffering with hives, headaches, everything you can think of, bloating, just too much to go on about. Anyway, further reading into my condition, I discovered that it's because I started to eat healthily and I was still sick, healthily. Anyway, I discovered that many of the fruits and vegetables and foods, like meats, I consume are causing the histamine problem. Because basically my body produces, if you have that, it can produce too much histamines. Okay, so fine, fair enough. So I've further looked into it, and as watching your slides and listening to you, you're talking about eating or consuming more vitamin C. I've just looked again while you're speaking. The vegetable side of it is fine, so, you know, for the vitamin C consumption that I can consume, but the fruits, most of the fruits, I can't eat because it will basically cause me to be ill. So what can I do with regards to that? Also, I have a B12, I have a B12 deficiency and I'm anemic as well. Other than that,
Come out for you.
Consultation.
Sure, they can help.
So is there anything, sorry, I would say, sorry, can I just add, sorry, hope not too much information. What I also, further reading, I was speaking with Natasha about this as well, what I further reading into my condition, I realised, and I went back into, basically I read somebody's blog, and she said that she was given antibiotics, which I kind of try and stay away from medication if I can. Basically, I got given 2 lots of antibiotics before this condition came about. So, is there anything I can do basically to, you know, basically get my gut flora, I think it is, back to where it should be, to hopefully eliminate this histamine problem? Sorry, I hope you got everything covered.
It's quite a complex example that you've given us in terms of your health situation at present. There are various different elements of things that you could do to actually bring your body back into balance and enable your body to actually assimilate and break down foods effectively, and also optimise your ability to absorb nutrients such as B12 and iron. Now obviously vitamin C is also quite integral in those absorptions, but it's also about optimising your body's ability to actually absorb and assimilate those nutrients, which tends to be something that you look to your gut for. So it could be that you need to do more work on improving your ability to absorb nutrients from via your digestive system, and look at resetting your gut microbiome so that you can actually enable your body to assimilate the nutrients that you're eating more effectively. It might also be worth looking into gut permeability to see whether there are any issues there. But it is quite a complex case that you've given us, and it would probably be good to have more of a one-to-one consultation about it.
Thank you.
You mentioned antibiotic that you take.
Yeah, I genuinely, I'm not a person, you know, some people, not anything against anybody in the room or whatever, but as soon as they've got a problem, they rush to the doctor, and like what you said, fill them with pills, this, that and the other, and it basically does more than good. I'm one of those that the doctor will say, I'll take this and I'll take it home, and it's just there. I'll get rid of it, give it back to the pharmacist, whatever, after it. Well, I won't take it. The only thing in general that I have taken would be when I suffered with migraines, which was probably part of this, was microlide. But when they give me paracetamol, this, that and the other, I'm like, yeah, thank you very much, but I'm not taking that. I'll try and do, like what you're saying, the natural way. I'll do more research into it. So I had 2 lots of antibiotics, and I think that's where, when I didn't know that in the beginning, it's only in the last couple of weeks, because you know, further reading into, I ripped somebody's blog, they said they got this histamine problem when they had a course of antibiotics. Well, I was given 2 courses of antibiotics, one after the other, and I believe that is where the start of my histamine problem began.
You damaged your bacteria in your intestines, and that whole system had also to do with the absorption of vitamin B12. And it's a picture. It's for me. It makes sense what you tell. It's a complete picture. I see this often in my practice. And you have to start at the basic for improving your intestinal function.
Okay. I have become a flexitarian. I didn't want to say vegetarian because I'm trying to stay away from the meat, and I will say I've been doing that for a month. I feel so much better.
It's a good
by
step.
having a vegetarian diet.
Good step forward.
It's good to eliminate the things that you feel are causing issues within your body, and then once you've given a good window of time of staying away from them, introduce them slowly, and then monitor how your body responds to it, so you become more connected to how you feel when you have something, as opposed to taking a blanket view of not having something or having something. Because oftentimes in modern life, we lose connection with how we actually feel until we hit a place where we feel terrible.
Yeah.
And then when we go to seek any type of advice on our condition at that point, that's when we're hit with the question, how long have you been feeling like this? And sometimes it's only at that point that you realise, oh, actually, it's been about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you know? And really, that's our bodies trying to tell us that we need to take action to correct the imbalance.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Glad that was satisfying. I think we've got a question from Denise. Yeah.
I wanted to address the issue. We shared out flyers in churches, and we've spoken to pastors and stuff. And this one is pointed at Kevin representing leadership in churches. How would you say, because the church should address the whole issue about health. You're doing it successfully in your church, but as advice to pastors and leaders who are probably thinking this is just another part of the, something they need to fit into an agenda, what would you say to them?
I think the big challenge is that we tend to put things in isolation. So I was listening to you yourself, and you're asking for advice how to deal with a situation. One of the things you said my condition. It's not your condition. If you say it's your condition, then you're going to keep it as long as you say it's yours. So you have to say this is a condition, but it's not my condition. So that's in that thing, and it's about the totality of it. It's the body, the soul, and the spirit. We have to look at the things. As a pastor, we major on the spiritual. It's the spiritual, and we major, and then that crosses sums up into the soul part, because people will come to us with issues in our life, and it's, do you need counseling or do you need deliverance? But it's a bit of spiritual, it's a bit of it's a bit of the spirit, a bit of the soul, but the body part is completely neglected. It has to be a complete lifestyle change. It has to be a complete lifestyle decision that we make. And for pastors and leaders, what is happening is I have a church, I have things to do, and I'm now going to fit something else in. It's not going to fit in because it's not really the thing. But we have to turn it around and say, no, this is the thing. This is the primary thing. I could be the most anointed preacher on the planet, but if I'm dead, I ain't preaching to nobody.
That's true. Very true.
I ain't preaching to nobody. I've met preachers who are anointed, but they're in wheelchairs and they're sick. So we have to recognize that God has given us a message to deliver. Imagine if Paul stood up here to deliver a message from Dr. Rath, and he was coughing, and he was overweight,
And smoking.
and smoking,
Teeth missing.
teeth missing, and he walked in with a wheelchair. The impact of his message wouldn't be felt. So what I'm saying to leaders is that we have to recognize that we have a message to preach, and a part of that message is us presenting ourselves physically. We have to be able to present ourselves physically. The Bible says we're in the world but not of the world, so we can't be living under the pharmacology of the world and then propagating a spiritual message. It's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's a total picture that we have to present, and it's a switch in mindset. People say, I can't afford organic food. You can't afford not to eat organic food. I don't have the time to exercise. One of the challenges, we've got parents in here with kids. So what we do is our kids want to run up and down. What do we tell them to do? Sit down, be quiet. So they stop. We're telling our children to be sedentary, subconsciously. So when they get into their teenage years and we're desperate to get them out of their room, desperate to get them off the PlayStation, desperate to get them off their cellular phones, they're sedentary because we planted a seed of a sedentary seed into their lives. But then what am I doing? Am I out there physically active? So it's a whole mindset. And sometimes it just needs to be presented to them. They need to see this and understand this. And a lot of them don't. So hopefully I'll be able to get out there and champion the cause.
Yeah, true. We learn more from what we see than what we're told to do.
Yes. that is correct.
If you've done your presentation, or definitely for you, Terry, if you've done your presentation without PowerPoint, we would have all fallen asleep. Not because you're not a good speaker, because we needed to connect what you were saying with something visual. And that's, again, it's a complete picture.
All right. We'll take one more question. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I've recently been told that I've got arthritis. I was obese before, and I've lost the weight and eating healthily, everything like that. There is medication that was provided for me, and after the days and really bad days, I've changed the way of eating and exercising when I can, but still, the weight loss and the healthy eating and the change of my lifestyle, the pain is still there. Is there any other added thing that I can maybe do to help that? Because I don't want to fall and rely on the medication, and I take it even when I can't bear it. It's too much for me. So is there anything maybe I can do, because I hardly eat, I go to meat and stuff. I do like more meat stuff and put back in my body what I've overindulged in my foods. So is there anything else that I can maybe do to add to release that pain from not having to go back to that medication just when it's at its worst? But I've taken like herbal remedies and it works for a period of time, but then I have some days where I'm not able to like get up out of bed and do my normal things. Is there anything else that maybe I can do? Or
There are a lot of things you can do. I think you better get in touch with Alethia about that. but you can do a lot with natural substances, also with herbs or plant substances for decreasing your inflammation activity, and also to try to build up your cartilage again. And that's the basic problem in your joint, that the cartilage is broken down. It is also a renewal, and a negative balance. There was a lot broken down and not rebuilt. So try to rebuild it, to help it with natural substances and decreasing the inflammation. Because the inflammation is also by inflammation, you break down your cartilage furthermore. If the cartilage is gone, then you have bone on bone, and that causes the pain. And so there's a lot you can do. But get in touch with Alethia or with Denise or Natasha. Yeah.
And it could be better tailored for you. Yeah, we want you as ambassadors spreading the word. So we need as much feedback as we can from you. Okay? So, without further ado, I'll just ask Denise. So.
Hello, I'm Denise, founder and the UK director for HIPP About Health. Now, most of you who know me here would know I was kind of hoping this part of it would have disappeared and we could have gone home by now, but no. I'm here. But I just want to quickly encourage you with what we are trying to do with HIPP, and so that we get some confusions in, is it a women's organization, is it anything like that, and it's nothing like that. We came together because of, I think it's basically started with my condition. I suffered with fibroids for like 16 years. And I've had miscarriages and surgeries after surgeries, hundreds of days in the hospital and all that. And discovered one day, after I've had a hysterectomy, no kids and all, I discovered that, I was told that my disease could have been resolved using cellular medicine. And that was a shock for me. And I thought to myself, I did get angry with God. And I thought, God, why didn't I know this before? But then I discovered I kind of heard things, but you never take it seriously. And I'm sure some of you in here are thinking, yeah, all this is good and all that, but it just seems a little too hard to do. And you tend to go more with what seems easier. And it's easier to go to our doctor and put it in the doctor's hand and say, well, fix me. Well, I can tell you, doctors don't always fix you. For me, my surgeries and the medication that I've had and all that actually made my situation 100 times worse. But I stand here today, if you look at my medical report, you would believe that, well, my doctors would believe I'm supposed to be in a pain clinic somewhere. And I have prescriptions, just like the young lady over there. I have prescriptions at home that I have not filled. So I said, that is not my portion. I know who my God is. And I know, and I've learned. We spent some time with Terry. And when you begin to, take in that information, it blows your mind. You realize that God has created everything that we need to be healthy and strong. Everything. God is not a liar, so it is out there, something that God has created. And when you hear about simple things that I can do with my life to bring about, and I am a standing testimony that indeed this thing works. I went through stages where I slacked back on my diet. I went on holiday, and of course you ate all the new things, the ice creams that you've never seen before, and you go into these dessert shops, it's like, oh my God. I've been there, and I felt the consequences of it afterwards. After that, it's like, I am not doing this anymore, because how I feel when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, it's amazing as compared to the little joy that I will get when I have my little, waffles with fudge and things sprinkled all over it. it is amazing when you actually make those decisions. I'm a person who never ate vegetables. My husband used to be very upset with me. I used to pick the stuff out in the corners, right? And I eat the meat. Give me the meat. You don't have to give me rice or no. I'll eat the meat. And in actually, Jacoba is one that introduced me to vegetables, and she did all amazing things with these vegetables. And this is years ago. And then I said, okay, I will try. I'll try. But it's amazing when you made a decision in your mind. You're going to change your life, and you're going to become the person that God has created you to be with the energy. I got so much work to do for God. I need energy. When I made that decision in my mind, carrots, I could love. I sit down and I eat kale, with a little bit of lemon juice and spinach and stuff, and I enjoy that. Because I've made up in my mind, I retrained my taste buds. So it's not impossible. It is something that when you've made up in your mind, the mind is a powerful tool. And one of the things we want to address in HIPP too is the power of our own minds. How when you've made a decision to change your life, God empowers that decision and your confidence in Him to actually do it. So it is possible. One of the things that we get from a lot of people is, I can't afford this and I can't afford that. I saw a quote that said, you can't afford not to. Basically, as simple as that. You can't afford not to. And mine is cheaper than the others. And my husband's lunch would be more expensive than mine. Mine is a basic salad, while his might have a little bit more than that. So the cost is actually much different. And as we were talking about, we have studied cellular medicine, myself, Natasha, and Alethia, and now we can offer that particular training as part of what we'll be doing in HIPP. We'll be offering that particular training to churches, to cell groups, one of the things that we want to start. We can offer that information. Dr. Rath's foundation, Health Foundation, have given that information to us for free. That information is free. Free. People love free, don't they? And we can offer all of that. So, yes. Some of the things that we'll be doing, like slip through all of that. We have 3 pillars that we want to work on, and that's educating you. We also need to be motivating you. But not only motivating you, but we will be empowering you. We want to encourage everybody here. And we don't want you to leave. You can't hear this and decide you're not sharing this. You cannot hear this and decide you're not sharing this. So we have now implicated you. Now you have an opportunity to go out to other. I know all of you here, you either have a condition or could potentially end up in a condition if you don't change. But you all know somebody who has cancer, who has diabetes, who has high blood pressure, who has, cholesterol. You all here know somebody. And now you have a responsibility to share that information.
That's right.
And we want to be the driving force behind that. And we are here to say, just get on board, and we can help you be those ambassadors that can go and actually transform lives. Amen? You gotta put me on, man. Come on, I'm We'll have all this information available to you, but we want to do things like breakfasts. So talk to your pastors. We want to come into your churches. We do free breakfasts at churches. Free!
Sure.
At churches, where we switch out, the like dairy milk, and we show you all the different varieties that you have. My sister does some amazing pancakes with bananas and oats, rather than using the wheat flour, but all that information will be available at those. We're going to be starting a radio show, and we hope to start a video show. We want to do things like cell groups where everyone here can actually be an ambassador and start their own little cell group in different locations. And we are equipping you with all the resources that you need. We're going to be doing webinars. You're going to be hearing. We're going to be tormenting Terry to speak more and more and more and more and more to us. We're going to get all that we can get out of her. So all of us can reach to the point where we can talk as confidently about this information as Terry. Yeah? And one of the things we want to do, and because you're all, well, most of you are believers, we're going to be having a prayer line unashamedly. Christ is at the center of what HIPP About Health is doing, and it's not moving from that. Yeah. So you can find out about all of what you can do to join. Now, to find out more, you can go to our website. It's www.hippabouthealth.org. Telephone number. But yes, let us all join the movement. Let us all be part of something that can transform her. We're digging new ground. We should have had a full room of people in here today, because people have spent more than 15 pounds on, things out there today. We should have had more people in here, but we didn't. It should have been packed out. We should have been turning back people for the type of information and quality of information that we heard today. Didn't we? Let it be the last time that we put off an event like this and produce the quality of information that we produce today, and we not have to turn people back at the door. Amen? Amen.
So we've got to be very awake and woke or alert in this particular time, and really be stewards over what we eat. Yeah? So we're not saying don't eat any meat, but be careful of where you eat, where you're buying your meat from, what kind of meat it is. It's important. All that is part of taking your responsibility. And when you eat correctly, when you not necessarily exercise, but definitely move. Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. When you definitely move, we would be the kind of ambassadors, that people are looking for. People will gravitate to people that look successful, don't they? And if we look healthy and we operate in a healthy state, people are going to come and say, what you're doing, Veronica. Can I learn from you? And we've got a wealth of information because of the partnership with the experts in the Rath Foundation. Yeah? So I'm saying to you today, let's think about this. Let's meditate about it in the days and weeks to come and make some conscious changes. Visit the website. Yeah? Get your juicing diets. If you didn't juice before, maybe you should start juicing now. Yeah, maybe stop going to Tesco's and start going to the farm markets or something like that in your areas. Yeah, but start searching these things out for yourselves. And you don't have to do loads of stuff, but let's make some small steps, because sometimes we get too zealous and we overcommit ourselves. Yeah. We don't have to knock this down. As we saw in Paul's presentation, this is a major giant we're against. Yeah? So let's take some small but steady and forward steps. Yeah? Again, thank you for your time. We've got to be out of here, but we really appreciate you coming, and see you at the next event.